Welcome to Mod House DIY. Today, turn old furniture into stunning farmhouse decor, easy DIYs you'll fall in love with. Where forgotten furniture is reborn with warmth, charm, and a little creativity. In today's journey, we'll guide you through the magic of turning old, overlooked pieces into farmhouse treasures that feel both timeless and handmade. If you love DIY projects that speak from the soul and bring new life to discarded things, make sure to subscribe and join our growing creative family. There's beauty in the worn and stories in the wood. Let's discover them together. In the quiet corners of the countryside, forgotten wooden chairs often sit under dust and shadows, waiting for a second chance. We believe beauty never fades. It simply needs to be rediscovered. This week, we took an old dining chair, worn from years of family dinners and quiet mornings, and gave it new life with nothing more than a little sandpaper, soft chalk paint, and time. The process wasn't perfect. The brush strokes were uneven at first, but each layer of paint told its own story. Of patience, of renewal, of warmth. We didn't aim for flawless. We aimed for honest. You can see the wood grain peeking through, like memories that refused to be erased. A light distressing with a sanding block gave the final touch. Not just style, but soul. If you have an old chair leaning somewhere, listen to it. It might want to be a flower stand, a bedside table, or just a cozy corner companion again. Chair, let your hands do the remembering. Let the past sit with you, beautifully. There's something poetic about a drawer. It once held secrets, socks, letters, pieces of ordinary life. When we found this old, unloved drawer, chipped, creaky, and missing its knobs, we didn't see junk. We saw potential. At Glow Garden Studio, we invite you to see with your hands. We took the drawer apart gently, preserving its age like a precious wrinkle in time. After a light sanding and a soft touch of farmhouse green, it began to speak again. Not in words but in warmth. We mounted it on a wall and filled it with stories. A faded photo, a sprig of lavender, a forgotten key. It became a memory shelf. A piece of art that doesn't just look pretty, but feels like home. You don't need expensive materials. Just a drawer, a vision, and a little patience. And suddenly, the wall isn't just a wall. It's a quiet celebration of what once was. Because even the most forgotten corners can bloom again, if you let them. Some things break. But not everything broken must be thrown away. Sometimes, what's shattered can be made into something even more beautiful. If we look at it differently. We found a box of broken tiles behind an old shed. Odd shapes, mismatched patterns, forgotten leftovers from someone else's renovation. Most would call it rubble. We called it opportunity. With slow, careful hands, we began arranging the pieces like a jigsaw of imperfection. A dull, worn tabletop became our canvas. The cracks were filled with soft gray grout, binding chaos into calm. No two tiles matched. And that was the point. This project isn't about precision. It's about character. It's a lesson in letting go, of symmetry, of rules, of needing things to be perfect. When the sun hit that tabletop the next morning, the colors danced. And for the first time, the broken things weren't hidden. They were proudly displayed. Your discarded tiles. Your forgotten stories. They deserve a second chapter. One that's even more radiant than the first. Sometimes the things that cradle our dreams can be reborn to hold our stories. We found an old headboard, worn smooth by years of sleep, leaning quietly against a barn wall. It had no bed to belong to anymore, but it still stood with grace. We saw more than a piece of furniture. We saw a future bookshelf, one with curves and carvings that no factory could mimic. We sanded the surface with care, keeping the old nicks and lines that told its age. Then we trimmed it, framed it, and gave it shelves strong enough to hold pages and pots, poems and photographs. No, it's not perfect. The paint doesn't fully cover every memory in the wood. But that's what makes it beautiful. It remembers. Just like you do. This bookshelf now stands where the sun reaches in the morning. And when you run your fingers along its edge, you can feel the rhythm of what came before. A quiet heartbeat of home. So the next time you see an abandoned headboard, don't turn away. Let it become the keeper of your stories. Not everything that swings closed must be forgotten. Old cabinet doors have seen countless mornings, hurried breakfasts, soft evening lights, hands opening them in rhythm with everyday life. And when their hinges rust and their frames grow tired, most people send them away. We believe in giving old wood new words. We took a simple door, chipped, heavy, and silent, and listened. With gentle sanding and a coat of soft ivory, its voice came back. We hand-lettered a phrase across its surface. Not in perfection, but in feeling. Welcome home. A message simple enough to warm any wall. There was no need to erase every flaw. The small dents and uneven grain only added soul. A piece like this doesn't shout. It whispers, in the language of handcraft and memory. And maybe when guests see it on your wall, they'll smile. Not just because it's pretty, but because it feels like something real. So if you ever find an old door without a cupboard, ask it what it wants to say. Then give it the space to speak. It once climbed rooftops, leaned on trees, held steady beneath calloused feet. This old wooden ladder had done its duty. It was rough to the touch, splattered with paint, and missing a rung. No longer fit for height, but still full of history. We don't just rescue wood. We rescue stories. We carried it into the workshop gently, like carrying an old friend. No need to cut it down or strip it bare. We simply cleaned off the years, brushed on a coat of matte sealer, and leaned it into a quiet corner. And just like that, it became something new. A hanger for soft blankets. A sculpture of usefulness. A vertical whisper of the past. Now part of the warmth inside your home. In the flickering afternoon light, the throws draped over each rung invite touch. Not just warmth, but memory. A place for comfort to live, elegantly and effortlessly. So the next time you see a discarded ladder by the roadside, pause. It may not reach the sky anymore, but it can still hold something beautiful. Pallets are made to carry weight. Heavy loads, rough roads, silent strength. But when their freight days are over, most end up forgotten, splintered and stacked behind stores. We see something else, a bench, a place to pause. We chose the strongest planks from a weathered stack, brushed them clean, and let the wood speak. Its knots, scars, and raw edges were perfect. Not polished, not sterile, just honest. Piece by piece, we measured, cut, and joined them, until a bench began to take shape. Not just a seat, but a story. A welcome home. The kind of bench that belongs under trees, beside garden paths, or on porches where people stop for a while. We added nothing fancy. Just a coat of beeswax, some linen cushions, and the sound of quiet. Now it sits outside our door, waiting for muddy boots, morning coffee, and soft sunlight. A reminder that even the most utilitarian scraps can become part of a home's heart. So if you ever walk past a broken pallet, pause. It may just be waiting to carry something more meaningful. Like your piece. Before closets and built-ins, there were crates. Rough wood boxes made for apples, milk bottles, tools, now left to gather dust. But those humble corners hold more charm than we often realize. We see crates not as clutter, but as possibility. We gathered a few from a flea market, uneven, splintered, with worn logos barely visible. And instead of hiding them away, we gave them a new kind of purpose. Storage that speaks with soul. With just a bit of sanding and a coat of matte paint, they softened into something beautiful. We added simple touches. Linen liners, handwritten labels, a jute handle here and there. No nails needed. Just time, vision, and care. Now they sit under our bench, beside our door, stacked in the pantry, holding not just things, but order and calm. The kind of storage that doesn't feel cold or hidden, but lived in, handmade, quietly graceful. If you have a wooden crate lying somewhere, don't toss it. Tuck it under your life. Let it carry not just your clutter, but your story. Some windows no longer open to the outside, but they can still let light in. We found this old frame at a salvage yard, glassless and weather-beaten, once part of a home that probably stood proud through seasons and time. Its wood was gray with age, softened by rain and memory. But beneath the wear, it still had strength, still had shape, charm, soul. We believe in preserving that past. We gently sanded the frame, brushing off dust but keeping the peeling paint that told its story. We didn't replace the character. We embraced it. Mirrored glass was fitted behind the panes, turning this once window into a new reflection point. Now it hangs by the entryway, catching glimpses of daily life. Muddy boots, laughter, the dog running past. A piece of the past watching over the present. It doesn't pretend to be new. And that's its magic. So if you ever walk past an old window with no view, take it home. Let it reflect what matters most. The life you're building now. They used to open drawers, holding silverware, ribbons, faded letters. Each knob had its place, its pull, its purpose. Now they've lost their drawers, but not their charm. We see beauty in small things, especially those left behind. We gathered a handful of old knobs, all different, all delightful. Some were ceramic with hairline cracks, others brass with time-worn polish. No two matched, and we didn't want them to. We chose a piece of reclaimed wood, rough, aged, and full of warmth, sanded it just enough, and let the knobs tell their own story as hooks. One by one, we spaced and screwed them in. Watching a new purpose unfold. Now it hangs by the door, catching everyday moments. A coat shrugged off after a long day, a market bag ready for tomorrow, a sun hat waiting for the garden. This isn't just a coat rack. It's a celebration of mismatched memories, holding up your day with gentle strength. So if you find an old knob in a drawer somewhere, don't discard it. It may be ready to hold something new for you. Not all kitchen islands start with a plan. Some start with a forgotten dresser, standing crooked in a shed, dusty, dented, drawer handles long gone. But within its frame, there's still strength. Still promise. We brought that promise back to life. The idea was simple. Give it wheels, give it breath, give it room to belong again. We stripped away what wasn't working, the stiff drawers, the old varnish, and gave it freedom to be useful in a new way. A coat of sage green. A slab of smooth wood on top. Open shelving below for baskets, cutting boards, flower jars. Nothing too precious. Just function wrapped in comfort. Now it rolls quietly across the kitchen floor, always nearby but never in the way. Holding tools, holding ingredients, holding space. It may no longer stand in a bedroom, but it belongs more than ever. So next time you see an old dresser waiting to be discarded, imagine it under warm kitchen lights, part of your daily rhythm. Full of life, full of flavor. Table legs are often forgotten. Silent supporters of grand feasts and quiet dinners, sturdy and unseen. When the table disappears, they're the last to remain. But even in separation, they still hold grace. We found 2 such legs at a salvage shop. Weathered, splintered, covered in layers of forgotten paint. They stood like relics, strong, still, ready. We didn't see broken furniture. We saw possibility in shape. We trimmed them down, sanded them gently, and painted them in soft eggshell white, letting the grooves and turns peek through. Then, at the top, we added space for a single candle. Tall and simple. When lit, the candle's flame flickers across the curves of the wood like it's dancing with memory. It doesn't just warm the room, it honors what once was. These stands now sit quietly in our window. Not trying to be new, just being enough. So if you ever come across a lonely table leg, take it home. Let it rise again, not to hold a table, but to hold light. A barn door holds history in every slat. Stories of wind, harvest, and horses long gone. But even if you don't live on a farm, you can bring a little of that spirit into your home. We didn't have an actual barn door. Just old fence boards, uneven, faded, each one whispering its past. But when placed side by side, they began to feel like something more. We arranged those planks like puzzle pieces, securing them with cross beams and sanding just enough to let the grain breathe. Then came the paint, a dry brush technique in soft white. worn down with love, not force. We mounted it on the wall like art. No hinges, no frame. Just presence. A quiet anchor. Some add hooks for function, others let it stand alone, commanding attention in its stillness. It's more than a replica. It's a tribute to working hands, open skies, and homes that welcome without needing polish. So if you have a few rough boards and a little patience, try building one for yourself. Not for a doorway, but for the heart of your room. Some chairs no longer carry us. But that doesn't mean they can't lift something beautiful. This project started in a forgotten corner of a flea market. A wooden chair, cracked, crooked, and seatless, stood quietly among the unwanted. Most would walk past, but we saw a trellis, waiting. We removed the legs and let the backrest shine. Its curves, once meant for comfort, became elegant arches for climbing vines. No need for major tools, just some weather sealant, a patch of good soil, and a little faith. We staked it gently into the garden bed, where peas began curling around its frame, reaching upward like soft green poetry. Over time, the chair disappeared beneath bloom and leaf, a silent supporter, strong in stillness. Now, when the wind passes through that patch of garden, it rustles stories. Not of dining rooms and conversations, but of growth. Quiet, persistent growth. So the next time a chair breaks, don't mourn. Plant it somewhere. Let it help something else rise. Keys are tiny things, but they carry worlds. Homes, memories, moments. And yet, we often toss them in bowls or lose them between cushions. What if they had a home of their own? A small, simple place that feels just as warm and worn as the pockets they came from. We found a plank of wood in our scrap pile. Not big, not flashy. Its edges were chipped. Its grain had a slight curve, like it had listened in on decades of conversation. With a little sanding, a bit of beeswax, and a few mismatched hooks, it started to transform. We added names above each hook. Not printed, handwritten. A little board for messages. A nail to hold the dog's leash. Nothing fancy. Everything real. Now, it hangs by the door. Every time someone returns home, it receives their keys, without sound, without fuss. It's the kind of peace that fades into the rhythm of your day, quietly catching the small things that matter. And when you pass by it, you'll feel it, that even ordinary pieces of wood can keep your life together, one hook at a time. It used to hold socks, or spoons, or Sunday afternoon clutter. Now it carries something gentler, a quiet breakfast, a bouquet, a place to rest your mug. When we pulled this drawer from a broken dresser, it still smelled faintly of cedar. Its corners were wobbly, and one side had chipped paint like peeling wallpaper. But to us, it was already a tray. It just didn't know it yet. We began with care. We reinforced the corners, left the paint mostly as is, and added handles made from old rope. We lined the inside with paper that reminded us of vintage wallpaper from our grandmother's house. Faded roses, soft and simple. And when we set it down, on the bed on the porch table in the middle of a moment, it felt just right. You see, trays aren't about carrying things. They're about presenting them as if to say, "This is a This is lovely. So if you find an old drawer today, don't close it. Open it. Fill it with little comforts. Let it serve again. In a new, softer way. Drawers used to hold what we wanted to keep hidden. Now, they bloom with what we want to show the world. We rescued these drawers from an old dresser. Its legs broken and back panel warped by years in a damp corner. Most people would have tossed it, but at Glow Garden Studio, we saw a garden waiting to be born. With a drill in one hand and a paintbrush in the other, we gave each drawer drainage and color. Sage green, sky blue, creamy white. The insides were lined with burlap and filled with soil like a second chance. One by one, we planted petunias, basil, marigolds. Now they sit on the porch, each drawer a different height, a different rhythm. Like a song made of blooms. They creak a little when moved. The paint chips more with each rain. But that's what makes them alive. It's not just gardening. It's storytelling with dirt and petals. So next time you see a drawer left behind, let it grow. Let it give. Let it turn memory into life. It stood in the center of so many moments. Morning coffees, stacked books, quiet hands folded in thought. And yet, time had worn it down. The legs wobbled, the top scratched. The finish faded like an old photograph. But in that fading we saw potential. We carried it into the light. Not to erase its age, but to honor it. We sanded gently, not all the way. Just enough to let the wood breathe again. The legs got a coat of warm chalk white, brushed in soft layers. The top? Left raw, sealed with beeswax, glowing like bread crust out of the oven. We didn't hide the imperfections. We highlighted them. A ring from an old cup, a groove from a toy truck. Still there, still part of the table's heartbeat. Now, in the center of our room, it invites pause. A place not for perfection, but for presence. So before you pass up an old coffee table, scarred and scratched, look again. There might be stories waiting just beneath the surface, ready to be sanded back to life. This wood once stood tall, braving wind and rain, guarding gardens and secrets. Years later the fence collapsed, but the panels still carried strength, weathered lines, and soft grays born from sun and storm. We didn't see waste. We saw shelves. We trimmed the slats to size and brushed off the dust, leaving the knots, nail holes, and gray patina untouched. We let the past show through. Then we built a simple box shelf, not for perfection, but for presence. Mounted on the kitchen wall, it now holds the daily magic. A jar of thyme, hand-thrown mugs, a postcard from a friend. It doesn't try to be new. It just belongs. And every creak in the wood feels like a whisper from another time. A reminder that the past doesn't need to be hidden to feel like home. So next time a fence falls down, don't walk past it. Pick up a panel. Give it another job. Let it stand tall again. This time from your wall. A mirror only shows what's already there, but a handmade frame can tell the story around it. The boards we found were humble, pulled from an old gate, cracked at the ends, silvered by sun. No one else wanted them, but we did. At Glow Garden Studio, we laid them out gently, like lining up puzzle pieces from a forgotten life. We measured, cut, and mitered each edge, not chasing perfection, but harmony. No glossy finish, just beeswax and patience. We let the grain speak. We let the nicks stay. Because beauty here doesn't need smoothing. Once mounted around an old mirror we already had, the transformation wasn't loud, it was quiet. A shift in energy, from store-bought to soul-bound. Now, every time we catch our reflection, we see more than just ourselves. We see the time we gave, the care we carried, the way the past can frame the present so gracefully. So next time you find weathered wood, don't toss it aside. Let it hold your reflection. Let it remind you of what you're made of. Some pieces were born to support. This table leg stood quietly for years, holding up meals, elbows on books, and silent midnight cups of tea. But when the table fell, the leg remained, strong, turned, dignified. We saw not the end of function, but the beginning of light. With careful hands, we hollowed its core. Not to strip it, but to give it new purpose. A cord threaded through, a simple bulb atop, and a linen shade, soft, slightly wrinkled, like a story worn in. We left the wood mostly untouched, just cleaned and sealed. Its dents and spirals became part of its new voice. Warm, quiet, golden. Now, at dusk, when the sun slips behind the hills, that lamp turns on, and the table leg glows, no longer beneath the table, but beside the heart of the room. If ever you find one lonely, leaning in a pile of firewood, don't burn it, brighten it. Let it stand again, not to carry weight, but to carry light.